Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Doug. We are here at B&H and we have a wonderful panel with us today to discuss a very exciting product. This is something new from RØDE, the RØDECaster Video. This is a dedicated live streamer, switcher, multi-camera production tool. It can do a lot. We're going to talk about every new feature today, but we have an amazing panel with us, four wonderful guests. So let's just go right into some introductions, and then we'll talk about some highlight features before we dive into the conversation. So let's start right here.
Hey everyone, my name is Zephan Blacksburg. I'm the owner of ZMB Media, and on my YouTube channel, I teach live streaming, videography, and video business advice.
Perfect.
And I'm Kat Milvihill, and I'm a speaker and a trainer, and one of the things I teach is how to make more professional, engaging, and sort of seamless virtual presentations.
And sorry, I'm interrupting. And my name is Tom Buck. I am a former high school digital media teacher and current YouTube creator with a channel all about audio-video production. And according to the B&H poster, it listed me as an expert. So I'm going to be updating my resume.
And hey, I'm Ryan Burke. I'm the portfolio director at RØDE. So I work in new product development and do a lot of the YouTube tutorial content for RØDE as well.
We're going to be chatting a lot today, I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So thank you again for joining us. Where do we even begin? So let's see here. Let's just go over some highlight features. Basically, we have here, let's see, four HDMI inputs, two XLR TRS combo jacks for professional audio sources. That alone sets this apart. Two USB inputs that can take either UVC cameras or USB audio devices such as microphones or mixers. And this is really interesting, two built-in RØDE Series 4 wireless receivers. So you can plug a lot into this device, and it's surprising actually, considering it's actually quite small. So yeah, let's see, where do we begin? On a high level, you know, what makes this unique as a video switcher? I think we might as well just start this off with you, Ryan.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, when we first started working on the RØDECaster Video, it obviously bears the RØDECaster name, and anyone who's familiar with the RØDECaster Pro knows that, you know, in podcasting, what we did was we basically made the entire workflow of podcasting super simple by putting it all into one device. And what we've seen is the evolution of content creation, you know, video podcasting, a lot of live streaming, a lot of live video productions, and we wanted to do the same thing in the video space. So the RØDECaster Video is essentially an all-in-one device that combines super powerful audio, which has been missing, you know, from the you know, kind of video switcher space, with a really unique scene-based workflow. So basically what we wanted to do with the RØDECaster Video is integrate everything that you need to create a live production, but with a scene-based workflow, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later, where it's super simple to set up a lot of different multi-source content with overlays, media players, and the best part about it is it's all in the box. So as you mentioned, we have wireless receivers on board. We've got the ability to live stream from the device. We can record ISOs. You can run HDMI sources, USB sources. So it's a production workflow that can grow with you as a creator as well. So if you're just starting out with a couple of webcams and you really want to be able to start, you know, leveling up your production, you can do that with a RØDECaster Video, and it can grow with you.
Excellent. All right, I think we need to just field this right away to everyone. Let's just go down the row. What challenges have each of you faced in producing multi-camera productions, podcasting, pretty much any kind of content that requires the use of a switcher? Let's just start here.
I would say the challenge I've experienced are just needing to have so much additional equipment to be able to pull everything off. And one of the things that the RØDECaster Video does really well is it kind of does everything all in one. So before, I had to have an audio mixer, right? And that had to mix my audio. And I needed to have either a computer for video playback or some other device for video playback. Now everything is happening all in one unit. That makes it really simple, really easy, and allows me to travel lighter, so I don't have to cart a whole bunch of equipment just to get the job done.
Typically, how often, I checked out some of your content. I saw that you do have like a live streaming background in general, so how often are you doing productions that require all of that extra equipment?
Quite frequently, but I think it ranges quite a bit. You know, sometimes it's an event that has 5,000 attendees, and other times it's an event that has 30 or 40 in-person attendees. And I think this is going to be a great option for some of those events that just require everything all in one. And I think that it's definitely something that I would take out on some of those gigs that we have.
Perfect. Moving on.
Yeah, so my experience with multi-camera setups has been all software based. So my biggest challenge is that I am connecting all sorts of different cameras to my computer. And then I'm using it to scenes with software and doing all the switching. And I think the biggest issue is just, first of all, managing all the cables, everything connecting to that computer. But also, it does start to put a load, like the processing for the computer starts to take a toll, and things can start to lag or slow down. And I've had experiences where, because I had so many different camera inputs, both physical and virtual cameras, that it actually started to affect the output of my production. So I'd have to make sure I take those offline. And with this, everything, I'm basically shifting the processing over to the RØDECaster video, and then you have the input to your computer, and then there's your production. So it really does kind of shift that demand and the load onto the hardware instead of all on the software and on the computer.
And that's especially true. I wasn't sure, you had multiple cameras. Are any of them webcam or UVC based at all?
I do often, I'll use some for simplicity's sake, where maybe an overhead shot or different angles, I'll add in a webcam. Yeah.
And that's definitely something, we're going to get into it, but that's something that's like, I've never actually seen a switcher that can take that input straight as opposed to requiring some kind of conversion. So I imagine, that simplifies a lot of your workflow.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the same page as Zephan and Kat here, and a lot of what I do is solo, so it's just me. And so it's like Zephan was saying, you sort of have all this stuff. You have your audio mixer, and you have your switcher, and you have all these other peripherals. And then, like Kat was saying, you're trying to put it into a computer and mix it together. And I've been going back and forth, like, do I use a hardware switcher? Do I use a software switcher? Do I assign hotkeys on my keyboard? I don't know. And then the thing that's really cool with the RØDECaster, one of the many things with the RØDECaster video, is that it is like, it's compact and it's sturdy, and it's something that it's not what I expected when I heard there was a RØDECaster that could do video switching. I was expecting like a big thing with knobs and buttons and dials everywhere. But what's really nice about this that I found is the thing that it helps me do is it's just big and tactile. Not big, it's compact, but the buttons are big and tactile. And so as you're doing your thing, you just kind of easily can manage it while also doing whatever it is you need to do, which as like a solo creator is huge.
Yeah, I think the traditional, I guess we could say, traditional switcher we do think of as overloaded with buttons and knobs, and sometimes they're nice, but yeah, the tactile nature of it is kept there while being simplistic, but not in a bad way. It's streamlined. It's really streamlined.
Yeah.
We actually have downstairs a RØDECaster unit being demoed. We're gonna cut to that in just a minute. But we'll show you some of the workflow down there. Let's just start right now with, let's see. Now, I think, Zephan, I want to ask you this specifically. You worked probably a lot with traditional video switchers in the past. What was it like, I guess, the first time you had to wrap your mind around something called the scene-based workflow that's here? How was that really different, and what was your initial reaction to that?
Initially, I was really impressed that it gave me the flexibility to have more than one scene. There are some switchers where we're restricted to one scene at a time, and you kind of had to jump through some hoops just to be able to change that layout or how that looks. And now I can have a double box, a triple box, a quad box, a person with slides, or whatever layout I wish. And I can see them all on the multi-view, and I can switch between them all at any given time. I think that's going to be a huge one-up for anybody who's trying to create a live stream that keeps attention, which we live in a world where keeping attention is pretty paramount.
It's hard.
So, I would say being able to graphically and visually create a live stream that has more images to it, that keeps it interesting, keeps it moving instead of just staying on any one camera angle for too long. I think that's probably the biggest advantage to having that scene-based switcher. But it was very easy to jump right into the Rode Central software, and you can see it's layered right there. You can click and drag in whatever input needs to go where it needs to go. And I think when I first tried it out, maybe a minute or two, and I was off to the races with building out scenes.
I think for me, the neatest part about that is that it works at any level, so not just the source level, but it works at the composited level. And you could essentially see the whole constructed scene pre-program, but literally at the touch of a button, which is really cool. Let's see, so, all right, there's another, I just mentioned it actually, so the inspect button. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself here. I want to actually get to that. The inspect button is really interesting because normally you have this different workflow of preview program. This kind of ties into the scene base, is that it's different, but it also is very connected. Kat, I think you have a lot of like workflow at your desk, so it's a lot of self-facing camera work. I'm actually wondering, given how at your fingertips this is, how being able to inspect things right off the bat like that, how does that affect your workflow? I actually just watched your video on like the new September layout, so I was wondering, like, how does this fit into that?
Well, one, just from the fit, I do want to mention the footprint. I'm really impressed with it.
Yeah.
I know that I have shared in the past with my studio, and I'm a solo creator. I got the RØDECaster Pro, and I was so excited, and it had this really big footprint on my desk. It turns out the Streamer X was a little bit more of my speed for size. So to be able to have the RØDECaster video with that footprint is really nice, and so I can reach it. I don't have to worry. It can fit on the desk really nicely. And the tactile helps because I am a person who I often like to retain eye contact while I'm switching. And so I am able to just kind of know which scene is which, and I can feel that without always having to look down. So that's really helpful. But I think just, I don't even know if I'm answering your question anymore around.
Oh, we're just getting a feel for like workflow, because it really is different.
Yes.
Let me dive a little in here. Oh, you know what? We actually have a bit of a good view at the moment. Yeah. You could see a little bit over the shoulder. If we could cut, there we go. So right now you can kind of see that they're utilizing it downstairs. We have a live demo in store right now. If you happen to be in the area, please stop on by. You can take a look. Right now you're seeing two monitors. There's a program feed and a multi-view feed on the left there. So you get a sense, this is a very full-featured, sophisticated multi-view. You could see the mixers down there, which we're going to get to in a bit. You see every graphic that's loaded, every camera angle. On the side, on the right side, I think they have it separately. Is that Rode Central on the side?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. So they have everything laid out there. And then let's just move on.
Yeah, I think on the inspect button, just to kind of dive a little bit more into the reason for that. Even in-house, when we're doing a lot of live streams for product launches and things like that, we found that we'd set our audio up, and even though we kind of started out as an audio-centric company, we'd set our audio up and kind of forget about it, and then our entire focus had to be on the video switching and setting up picture-in-pictures and all these different things. And so what we wanted to create was a much easier workflow for people. And one of those things that I'm sure you guys have experienced it, especially when you're starting out in video switching, is if you don't know with 100% certainty what is on a button and you're not in program preview mode, you just don't press that button. So your whole production suffers because you're not going to cut to the wrong angle, the wrong piece of media. And so the inspect button kind of serves two purposes. If you're a solo creator and you're running the switcher in what's called instant mode, where as soon as you press on a source, it'll switch to it, sometimes you want to be able to check your preview. So it's almost like an on-demand preview. So if you press that inspect button, it will take it out of instant mode and put it into studio mode, where you can see a live preview. You can even build a new composition and save it super quickly. But the other thing that it does is it puts the unit into completely safe mode. So if you want to be able to check things on preview and bounce around and know for sure that you're not going to send it out to program, you can put it in inspect mode. The unit is totally safe. You can check all of your media, all of your overlays and everything before switching to it, and you just take it out of inspect mode and then you can run. Now, of course, you can still run it in program and preview mode, which we call studio mode, but it's also super useful for troubleshooting. So if you have a bad cable, if you've got a camera that's switched off or something that's happened, when you're in inspect mode, you can see all of the diagnostics. You can move things around. So that's kind of the background of why we created that. It's all about kind of user-centric workflow and taking away one of those things that stressed us out, when we were doing our own streams, and I'm sure anyone in this, kind of environment's in the same boat.
Yeah, the workflow, it took a bit of getting used to, for sure, and seeing it played together with Rode Central, especially during that scene creation, is really cool. One of I wanted to get back to the UVC inputs, though, because I feel like that's secondary to the inspect mode is probably the thing that intrigued me the most when I first opened it, because I think I mentioned before, like, nothing else really has that. Rode's in kind of a unique position. You have your hands in a few, especially audio. I guess what was the feeling for the use case and the user when adding that? Because Yeah, I think a lot of us now are integrating not just what you would call like the professional level cameras and audio gear, but everything around it ancillary. So webcams, USB microphones, UVC yeah, I said UVC. What was, did you take like feedback for this prior to including it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been working on the RØDECaster video for a long time, and what we were seeing when we first started this project was more and more professional cameras are catering to live streamers and people that are doing desktop, kind of production. It started out with the mirrorless style cameras that people were using that were all, HDMI focused, and that's still the predominant workflow in this space. But what we wanted to do was, give people the option, whether they're using a webcam, when they first kind of kick off, or whether they're using even a professional camera that has a USB output. We wanted to cater for that, kind of future workflow. But at the same time, if you're running capture cards, if you're running another RØDECaster video and you want to run a UVC output into another one, you can do the same thing. And even, wireless video transmission systems often will have a UVC output. So it was more about flexibility in the production. There's a lot of devices that now have direct UVC output, and we will certainly see more and more over time. And just giving the user that flexibility between HDMI sources and UVC means that you're not there looking for adapters and interface devices. The whole point of the RØDECaster video is actually simplicity. It's an extremely capable device, but on the surface you look at it and it looks so simple to operate, and that was the goal for us, was the fact that you can sit in front of it, plug your sources in and just get started. So regardless of whether you've got webcams, UVC sources, HDMI, you can just get set up.
I promise we're going to get back to everyone here. I just have one question. We actually got something from the stream. People are wondering about its ability to connect to the RØDECaster Pro 2 in particular. And I'm imagining, I haven't tested it myself, so I'm imagining there's an additional level of synergy going on there.
Yeah, so essentially, when you look at the RØDECaster video, it is a fully fledged RØDECaster Pro under the hood. One thing that was very important to us was to have a professional audio workflow. So you have essentially all of the same channel controls that you have on a RØDECaster Pro. You've got all of the digital signal processing we have. You even have, your audio delays. You've got the AFX processing. Rode Revolution preamps with a huge amount of gain and extremely low noise. But if you want to expand your setup with a RØDECaster Pro, you can simply plug that into one of the additional USB hosting sources, and then you've got the audio coming in from your RØDECaster Pro as well. Now, when you plug that in, it just shows up as another stereo source in the mixer, and in the Rode Central kind of setup page is where you can kind of set up all those different inputs, whether they be wireless or combo jacks or HDMI sources.
That was going to be my next question, is how it presents itself in the mixer. Very nice.
Yeah.
Where was I going? Actually, so with the changes that you've made with the workflow, allowing the separate USB webcams, Tom, I actually wanted to field this to you.
Sure.
You're an educator in a lot of this, so how do you feel this impacts, I guess, how you would recommend workflows to people in terms of how many cameras they can have, what kind of setups they can have, the approach that they may be able to take on different budgets now? Right.
Yeah. A thing that I always like is to sort of aim for simplicity. It's so tempting to see new things and go, I'm going to spend all, I want to go to B&H, and I'm going to just load up my credit card right now. We've all been there. But a thing that I always tell people a lot is like, start with what you have and then upgrade as your needs become apparent. And the cool thing with something like this is it addresses a lot of those needs that become apparent.
Right.
And so, for example, I recently actually just worked on a video that was all about like the simple 4K streaming setup. And part of that was talking about not using webcams. So that was like my number one thing, like don't use a webcam because we're going for high quality. Use a camera with interchangeable lens. It looks really good. But later in the video, I was like, here's where your webcam can come into play as a secondary angle, as a top-down shot, as something simple. And that's where it is incredibly helpful, especially if you ever had to do like an overhead rig.
Oh, yeah. Where
figuring out just how to, I don't know, if you're doing a C-stand, you're doing some big heavy thing with a big heavy camera, and then you have the fear of, like, I live in California where there's earthquakes, and so the camera then smashing down onto, like, the RØDECaster. Like, all these things run through my head. The ability to just use a, very lightweight webcam really not only makes it more accessible, but is often a lot more practical in some cases. And I'm talking about top-down specifically, but it's one of those things that lets people take what they currently have and still continue to use it in simple ways, even after they may have upgraded to something that's a little more powerful and advanced.
Right. And even with, let's say, a DSLR or interchangeable, even those in the last few years pretty much all support UVC. So even if you do want to go or don't have the ability to ingest HDMI, which of course this does, but if for some reason you've occupied all of your inputs, you have that flexibility. I really like the growing narrative with that, especially because I know I'm not the only one who can probably say this, is you buy that initial gear and you don't follow the whole buy once, cry once methodology. And you learn later, oh, I should have bought the thing that had HDMI. I should have bought the thing that had XLR. Not anymore. Very nice. Did anyone here test it with strictly USB inputs?
I went crazy with HDMI.
I just got all those really nice, colorful HDMI cables and thought I had to use those. But I think it is worth reiterating because it's very easy for someone to look at this and think, oh, webcam, but it's not just webcam. No. And thank you for pointing out that wireless transmitters are now also outputting UVC. There's also plenty of cameras that are outputting that. So I think there's a lot of value there that people are going to start to find more ways to use that as time goes on.
So since you mentioned like you just used all the inputs, there's a lot of processing that has to be done to handle all that. Not to mention the fact that you can layer it a lot. What just to give people like an idea of the processing power that it actually has. What I guess what's the limitation on stacking, compositing? How many sources can you run in tandem, basically? Let's talk a little bit about maybe maximum resolution and frame rates.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, so with the RØDECaster video, we took a totally different approach to the general system architecture that you find on a vision switcher. It's a total GPU-based workflow, so similar to basically a graphics card. So we can basically composite a lot more different elements on the fly and also show you an actual preview of the entire scene. So whether you are running chroma key, kind of backgrounds with moving graphics, with multiple different layers. What's really unique about the RØDECaster video and the way that it is kind of set up is that we can show you live previews of everything at the same time as actually running those multi-layered scenes. So to kind of go through it, the core kind of workflow on this is 1080-60 in terms of the resolution and frame rates. And what you actually get is the ability to layer up to 9 different layers with chroma key, with your media player on board, with lots of different layers. So, and you can do that on both program and preview and see them live at the same time, which is completely unique to the RØDECaster video in this space. So the power under the hood is probably over-spec'd, but that's how we like to do it at Rode. We always like to leave room to kind of grow and take feedback from the community and whatnot. But it's an octa-core processor on board. It is a GPU-based workflow where a lot of other systems are FPGA-based workflows. Not necessarily important, but what it means is the outcome is that you can see everything that you're creating in your multi-view, and you also have loads of different layers that you can run at the same time. So you're essentially not limited in terms of what you can create.
I mean, that really speaks to the routing capabilities of it. The fact that it can do that, which, yeah, I think that's definitely the advantage of going with the octa-core solution as opposed to FPGA. In terms of recording, another unique thing, it does do ISOs.
Yes.
And is that for every single input?
Yeah, so you can record ISOs for all inputs at the same time that you're outputting UVC either over the network or over USB to your computer, and also live streaming at the same time. So the idea here is that we wanted to have a switcher that kind of adapts to basically any workflow, and it just does what you kind of expect it to do. If you plug it in and you want to be able to record ISOs and your program, you want to be able to live stream, you also want to be able to have UVC going to your computer, you want to have remote control, all of that is possible on this unit.
That was kind of where I was going with remote control. Did anyone here use it remotely?
I have not been
Not
brave yet.
That is another, yeah. Brian, sorry to keep putting this back to you. Could you just give us a little bit about remote control through Rode Central?
Yeah, sure. So you can connect the RØDECaster video either via Wi-Fi, via USB or via Ethernet. And the Rode Central configuration tool is where you can, very quickly and easily set up custom scenes. You can switch remotely, so you can completely remote control the unit. And what's nice about it, being completely wirelessly controllable is you don't even need to be in the same building. If you're on the same VPN, you can actually remotely control it, and you can view either the multi-view, the program, or the preview from within that Rode Central window. You can load up different, graphics. You can change all of your different scenes. You can even set up your auto switching on the fly, so that if you're a creator, you can press and hold a button, the auto button actually, which is usually for transitions. And you can even have it in a complete auto workflow. So you could essentially have an operator in a completely different space operating the RØDECaster video for you. And if they need to go and, grab a glass of water, they can set it to auto and set and forget.
Did anyone take advantage of auto? 'Cause we didn't get to.
You tried auto.
I mean, I've used it, and I will continue to use it more, but I definitely, for like my overview video, did it. It's something that I have wanted in a mixer for years, and that people I've talked to and people who message me and stuff, it's something that has been in huge demand and just doesn't really exist. The only other time I saw it was in like old like virtual meeting software where it was way too sensitive because someone would sneeze and it would just cut to them sneezing. What's really cool with auto switching, sorry, I'm just going to go off on it because it's like my favorite feature, is you can, in Rode Central, you can assign priority to things. So if you have like a host and guest and you don't want the person to sneeze and it cuts the camera away, you can actually assign different priority levels. And that way it's going to take a little bit more before the camera actually switches. It's going to be a little stickier. It's really fun. And it is just literally one button. You push to turn it on, push to turn it off. It's done. It's just cool.
I will say it's a feature I'm looking forward to. I do quite a few installs for people. So the solo user, that won't be used as much, but for people that have little content creation studios in their offices, I've kind of gone in and set up, you need lights here, you need this, you need that. Well, now I only need this because I don't need to give them a computer for video playback. I don't need to give them an audio mixer. They can just connect into this one unit and do it all. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more with the auto switching and maybe set that up for a few people.
Sorry, I kind of want to, because this right now is a situation I've been in before, but where I or somebody is running a mixer, and so you're having a conversation, and you're like, camera's and so you're not there. You're not paying attention.
Yeah.
And so the ability to just push a button, and now we can just talk, and it's going to take care of itself. And if something goes crazy and it switches in a way I don't want somehow for some reason, then you got ISO recording.
Yeah.
I think the first thing I thought of actually when I got my hands and started testing is video podcasts are huge. And I've seen people who are spending money they're investing to create interview studios. This is perfect because you have your audio, you've got your video, and then with the auto switching, as you said, you can be present with the guest in the interview. And so I think for video podcasters, this is a great solution.
And you don't have to see that awkward, lean out of frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was an important thing for us as well was, a lot of people are switching their own content. If you're a solo creator, at the moment, if you've, got anything that is kind of switching where you don't like it, or if you have to do it all yourself, it's kind of like taking you out of the moment. It takes your mind off the delivery of, whatever you're trying to say. And so having that auto switching set up, and it works really well. I mean, if you basically the way that it works is you can assign a camera and an audio source, and then it will automatically dynamically switch based on setting priority, low, medium, or high priority. So even if you have say a cutaway to a piece of media or to a wide shot or something that you want to just, pop in for visual interest, you can do that. But it is all about, making it easy, again, for people to use. If you, just press and hold that auto transition button, it goes into auto mode, and then you can override it anytime you like. But it just makes your workflow super simple.
Nice. I'm actually glad. I was worried nobody got the chance to use auto. What was I going to ask? Oh. What was the thing that you thought was really pushing it to the limit, pushing the RØDECaster? What was, I guess, either a composition or did anyone use green screen, any chance?
So I'm in the process of, I have a friend who's familiar with Unreal, so he can make some nice backgrounds for me.
Okay.
And we're in the process of making a small virtual studio, so to speak, that we can use for that. So once we have those graphics ready, our hope is to get me kind of sitting in a chair in front of a bunch of green screens with maybe 3 or 4 camera angles to see what we can come up with and to see how clean that looks.
Because we tried it out here, And even in very unideal conditions, it was a shockingly effective algorithm, I guess. Just at really the push of a button, you just choose the color. Is there anything, I guess, that I'm not really getting into with the chroma keying specifically?
No, I mean, look, the idea here was, you know, we wanted it to be able to work even in non-ideal lighting conditions, as you mentioned. And so the benchmarking, you know, at RØDE HQ has been literally just pull up either a banner green screen or a painted wall or a, you know, one of those like little pop-out ones, and it has to just work the second that you put it on, and it works really effectively. As you mentioned, you just choose the color, green or blue for your background. Now in RØDE Central, you can, you know, tweak it. You can, you know, adjust all of the settings if you need to. But the reality is, you just press the chroma key button on the unit, and it just works. And another nice thing about the way that chroma key works on the RØDECaster video is, on the bottom row, you've got all of your actual input sources. But if you key one of those input sources, you can either select a background or a transparency, and that source will remember it. You know, one of the main things is you never, if you've got a green screen behind you, you never want to see the green screen, right? The whole point of it is that you're keying it out so that you can use it with a different background. So you can actually override that source and have either a fixed image or a video or even just transparency behind it, and it'll remember that on the button as well. So once you key it once, forget about it. It's now just working as another, you know, kind of tool in the toolkit.
Amazing. Just to jump back real quick, because we have some questions. ISO recording, I have a feeling I know what the answer is going to be, but doesn't happen to have 4K recording options, does it?
No, so the workflow is all 1080 on the RØDECaster video, and I mean, for good reason. When you look at the streaming platforms, right. Some of the 4K workflows are emerging, you know, on the likes of YouTube, but you know, when it comes to ISO recording, all of your different ISO tracks, as well as streaming live and everything on the unit, that's a lot of information that's being processed, and so it's all happening in 1080.
And for, I guess, program recording specifically, or really any, let's just say ISO and program recording, you have control over bit rates?
Absolutely, yeah. So basically on the unit,
I'm thinking if you're, sorry to interrupt, I'm thinking if like you were almost doing like a live to tape situation, to use the old terminology. But if you are just recording program as opposed to streaming it, sorry, go on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so on the unit, obviously we have, because of the fact that we can live stream, you have a live, you know, kind of view of the uplink that you have, you know, your bit rates, whether you're going to run it at a high quality, medium, or lower quality. But the idea here is that we want to be able to record the best quality, you know, at all times, obviously. So on the unit, you can choose the frame rate that you're recording. You can choose, you know, what you're streaming out as well, and that's true for the program as well as for the ISOs.
Excellent. What was everyone's favorite feature?
I would say the scene builder. For me, the first thing I went into was that, and I put a video background on loop and played that, and then I tossed in some PowerPoint slides, and I was like, I can see this on the multi-view and it looks fine. And then I was like, what if I build another one? And like, I started going down the line to see like how many I could build out. And I think just having all of that was great. And then I will also say the fact that I don't have a pesky fade to black button in the bottom corner I might accidentally hit is awesome, and a power button to turn it off. I just have to give you a lot of credit on that one. I really just, it's the little things, you know?
Yeah.
The scene builder, actually, I just wanted to jump back now that you mention it. In terms of workflow with the device, let's say you're taking it on the go, and not that you would probably ever forget a laptop, but if you did, or if you wanted to just really strip down the setup, do all those things from the scene builder get stored?
Yeah, so essentially everything on the unit is stored on the micro SD card that you can plug in. So for recording all of your ISOs, you can plug an SSD in, and that's where all of your content that you're actually, you know, kind of streaming or recording is going to go to. But the setup is actually really easy because it has a media player on board, which is quite unique in this kind of setup. We wanted to have everything in one. The way that you set that up is with just a micro SD card, so you can choose whatever size card depending on the media that you're running. And whether you set that up in RØDE Central, which you do to initially load all of your media, you can simply just bring another SD card and away you go. You've got multiple different shows that you can run. You can export shows from the unit and save them. But setting up scenes is super quick. Basically, what you do is you either press your picture-in-picture or your kind of multi-cam, kind of button. You can hit any of the different, kind of compositions to build that out. You can put your, kind of lower thirds or overlays or any of those different, video backgrounds, whatever you want. And then you just simply press and hold on the scene buttons at the top for about 1.5 seconds, and it saves that scene. And so if you turn it off, turn it back on, they're still there. I know that there's a lot of other switches where rebooting means rebuilding your show, and again, another frustration for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could basically have this in a backpack. You've set it up at home, bring it on set, and just turn it on, and away you go. If you want to start moving things around, maybe you've want to reassign what's on input 1, 2, or 3. For whatever reason, you might have kind of mixed up your setup. You can also do that really easily. You press the inspect button. It's in safe mode, and now you can even reassign whether HDMI 1 goes on to input 3, for instance, and then that recreates all of your compositions really easily. So all of that workflow, you can literally pop it out of your backpack and start shooting straight away without having to reset it up again.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Moving back, Kat, sorry, favorite feature?
Well, I think it's also the scenes. I know that's already been mentioned, but I'm a scene girl. And before it was always software, and so it's nice to be able to have that, because I've worked with some clients where they've had camera switchers, but they almost had to choose what camera do you want to see, and so the ability to have them side by side. And so I recently was testing where main camera, then a scene with me and slides, just a scene with just slides, and then a scene with an iPad and the picture-in-picture. And I was going with custom. I really like the customizability. Throw in my overlay, and then I can just shape all of the camera sources to fit the overlay, and everything kind of pulls together really nicely. And I was able to recreate what I've traditionally done in software with now I use the Rode Central to get really fine. I haven't done a lot of testing on the console, but using Rode Central was once I got going, it was easy to do.
I mean, it really is hard to overstate the how different that is from having to do it in software, which takes you immediately out of the tactile area. It's all in the computer, and then you have to route it back into whatever switch you're using. So, yeah, Tom.
I kind of went off on auto switching a while ago, so that's a big one.
I think we know what you like.
I think I have a small feature and a big feature. Small, as we were just talking about, something I realized that I really like is when there's not a scene or input assigned to something, the button is dark. Mm-hmm. So you don't have NASA Mission Control in front of you, and you're like, wait, which one is it? It's just, if the button's lit up, that means it's doing something, or something is assigned to it. Really nice. But the big one, which we haven't talked about yet, audio implementation. We talked a little bit about RØDECaster, but I have struggled since the dawn of time when it comes to streaming with trying to get good audio into streams. It's like the RØDECaster helps. The RØDECaster's always been a secondary source connected to a computer,
right.
And there's a switcher or something connected in. You're merging both sources, and sometimes you run out of inputs, or it's clunky. It can be a clunky workflow, and to just smash those together, I can't say how nice it is to then also be able to push that, because I didn't push the you asked who pushed it to the limit a while ago. I didn't push the scenes to the limit like Zephan has, but doing multiple XLR inputs, multiple wireless inputs, USB inputs, and then assigning them to auto switch, and then switching between, it is so nice to just have one USB connection to a computer if you're streaming with a computer, and all of that is there is insane. And
the the audio, I mean, it's actually really important to understand XLR is not that common at this range, and to have it, because it kind of goes back to that growth thing, where at what point do you then not only upgrade your audio equipment, your microphone, your mixer, but now your switcher to support that. It's kind of like an all or nothing approach, whereas this really does open the door, especially for audio. I noticed that right out of the gate. The mixing alone is, as you would expect, it's pretty sophisticated, because it is effectively, it is a RØDECaster. What was, I guess, how much did you max it out?
I tried to max out as much as I could. I'm going to plug
how many inputs? I'm just
both of the XLRs, both of the wireless, and a USB was kind of my max that I've done so far.
Wow.
And it's awesome, and it's super fun, and it's really easy to just kind of, even without Rode Central, if you just have a monitor or something connected to it, you can see, I was trying to see the B&H thing, but you see the the mixer pops up in a window, and you just click through and adjust everything right there. And it's incredibly helpful and full size XLR. So sometimes things might say like, oh, it's got XLR, but it's the mic or the mini XLR, and you got to get an adapter. And it's like, no, just take any microphone, no boosters ever needed, put it in there. You got good headphone amps, so it sounds crystal clear. You can hear accurately what the sound sounds like. That has been like, I knew that'd be fun, but the amount of stress it has relieved for me has been way more than I expected, and I can't go back.
And I think it's good to highlight, I mean, on the audio side, there is no compromise with the audio. So when we say it's a RØDECaster, it really is a RØDECaster in every way. Everything from the preamps to having the really nice RØDECaster digital signal processing, so you can actually have noise gating, EQ on your channels, compression, aphex processing, but you also get all of the audio interface options, which come with a RØDECaster Pro. So you have the ability to bring in mix minuses for chat on Zoom and Teams. You can connect your phone via Bluetooth and bring somebody in as a caller. They will be able to have a mix minus back to the call. So you could literally run, a video podcast directly on this unit with multiple different, kind of PCs running audio sources, plus your phone, plus all of your microphones, and the Rode wireless inputs direct on the unit as well.
Wow. I just want to jump back to some technical stuff because we're getting more questions. Can you use multiple resolutions at once? I think that refers to, it says multiple device with different outputs. So I guess across the multiple HDMI outputs, can you configure those independently?
No, so basically what happens is you can plug your camera in and it'll automatically handshake and retrieve with the RØDECaster video what it's looking for. So, and you can check that on the inspect button as well. So if you've set up at 1080/30 for your stream, when you plug your camera in, 99% of the time it'll automatically handshake and send down, if it's a standard HDMI device, 1080/30. The workflow is going to be the same, whether you're running your live stream or whether you're running your VC out or whatever. It all runs at the same frame rate when you're doing that.
Are you able to stream to multiple destinations?
At the moment, we're streaming to a single destination, so you set it up in Rode Central, but that is something that will be
right.
expanding. Yeah.
Sorry if I keep asking all into the future.
Sure.
Is there an SDK, or will there be an SDK?
Look, there's not at the moment. It is a closed system.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. And then you mentioned somebody brought up the colorful HDMI cables. Got it. I guess. How has testing been with like longer cable runs? Because it is admittedly an HDMI device, and so I guess has there been recommendations over cable length, especially with the ones Rode's putting out?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've got a whole range of we have XLRs as well, but HDMI cables. Of course, you need to be conscious of the type of cable that you're using. So if you're running a long, kind of copper cable run, it's a little bit more challenging than if you're running a fiber optic cable run, for instance.
Right.
So we have, 10 and 20 meter HDMIs on the roadmap coming out. We also have 1.5 meter and 3 meter HDMIs that are coming out basically immediately. So, you need to be conscious of the quality of the cable that you're using. But of course, you can run, longer runs with HDMI if you have the right type of cable.
During my testing, I actually tested out a few HDMI fiber cables that worked flawlessly, maybe 60, 75-ish feet, just to make sure that something that long would work.
Yep.
And for anyone who hasn't used HDMI fiber, it is one directional, so as long as you plug it in the right way, you're good. But yeah, 60 feet worked just fine on the test.
Yeah, it is strange when you first use a fiber HDMI cable that it has has an arrow on it.
Yep.
It's like people have made jokes about arrows on cables for years.
I've started to add labels.
Yeah.
I have labels now that say camera, switcher.
Is there any, web-based aspect to controlling, or is it strictly a dedicated application?
No, so it's all dedicated application for control of the unit. But as I mentioned, you can even be in a different space as long as you can VPN into the same space.
Oh, that's true.
You can then control the unit remotely and even view the multi-view, for instance, directly from the unit from basically anywhere.
Cool. That's it for the questions I've got here. So I wanted to ask, what was, the headache that you traditionally have had? This is for everyone. That this solved for you the most. or I guess something that kind of surprised you right out of the gate?
I've got two. The first, I always go back to video playback. On other video playback devices that I've used, they can be very picky about the format of the video, the codec, and so having something where I can just toss an MP4 file onto that micro SD card, pull it right in, and it just plays back every time is great, especially because it's very rare that if a client gives me a video file to play back last minute, that it's going to be an Apple ProRes 422 file.
Sure.
Very rare. And then I would say second to that is probably just having the two XLR inputs, because oftentimes one of the struggles I had was I was always bringing an audio engineer. And if he's watching right now, I love him. I'm not getting rid of you. But, you know, for the smaller projects where I can bring in just a couple of, you know, like wireless handhelds or something like that, to be able to just go right into this. And now I can offer an even more affordable option to my clients because I'm not charging to bring an additional person on my team for those smaller events.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned wireless handhelds. We even have a wireless handheld mic that you can pair directly to the unit, to the internal receivers. So you would then even still have your XLRs free. It's called the Interview Pro, and you can basically connect it directly to the unit without any cables at all, which is
did
nice.
that and it works great. And you can also record 32-bit audio internally on the Interview Pro. You're backed up.
I think he really pushed the audio to the max.
That's why I actually
Sounds
had
like
a question about it, but he already. Kat, any headaches or I guess just workload changes? I know we've kind of harped on it a bit, but I'm just curious because I know for me it has to be the audio as well. So I'm just wondering.
I think, I mean, the biggest headache, though, I think, is actually just the cable management around.
Yes.
If you are
Yes.
running software from your one computer, just how do I get all of these connected, and can my computer handle it? But the other thing that I will mention, and it's not specifically something that I've struggled with, but people I work with, the idea of trying to control software for scene switching and running a production while they're, because virtual presentations, you're often going into, say, Zoom or webinar software. And so you want to be present in the moment, and you want to be focused on the call. Let's say you're going to a Zoom webinar. To have these layers of applications, especially if you have a simple setup. There's some people with one monitor, so they have their applications are all kind of layered. They're switching back and forth. Can they see the chat? Can they see the scenes? Can they see the control? This just, with that one cable, you are connecting your video and your audio. You can control everything with the RØDECaster video. And so you can be present and focus on the actual presentation that you're making instead of trying to figure out which application is in the foreground and the background, and you can just really be present.
The cable management thing, I think, is really easy to overlook, especially once you start involving a desktop computer. And first off, I admire, going back to that video, I saw your cable management. I do really admire that because mine is non-existent. And so with this, yes. Let's see here. So just a few more questions that we got in right before we wrap this up. I know that Tom and Ryan, you both kind of said this, but I think this has to be said just because this is such a common setup. XLR gain with the SM7B, do you need a cloud lifter?
No, you don't.
Great.
You'll actively degrade the signal if you did use a
Amazing.
cloud lifter because it has a lower equivalent input noise than what you would get on a cloud lifter. So,
Amazing. So the preamps are amazing.
He's from RØDE, and RØDE
I
will say
know.
that.
I know.
I was like, okay. When the RØDECaster Pro 2 came out, I tested it, made a whole video about it, and it's absolutely true. It sounds better without the cloud lifter.
Amazing.
And it's not just like
It's
marketing
an
or
unbiased
anything.
answer.
It's really good.
I love it. This is probably, actually, here's one. This is not future looking. I don't want to put you on the spot with this one. Instant replay? I guess that kind of falls under playouts.
Sure, yeah, that's more on the playout side of things. We don't have instant replay on the unit at the moment.
Got it. And I might as well ask, NDI?
Look, the unit has, kind of full network capability, but it does not support NDI at the moment.
Got it. Understood. Very nice. All right. I didn't actually ask you technically, Tom, what the headache. I'm sure it's going to be audio related.
Well, I can actually veer. I can say audios to audio and go into a different direction. The thing that I really like, so talking about cable management stuff, my wife has a studio office, and we have redone it 4 times in the past 2 months.
Wow.
It's because she's changing setups. She's going to get a RØDECaster next week. It's very exciting. But the thing that she always says is like, how do you know how to do this? Like, because I'm like, oh, we just need to connect this to that thing. And the answer is I don't. But there's always a million ways to do everything. And that's kind of like the headache is when you find something that's limiting, like this has to work only this way. That can be very limiting. When you have something where it's like, here's a thing that can handle stuff in a whole bunch of different ways, and you just use it how it works best. Like maybe that's using webcams, maybe that's using super high-end cinema cameras running an HDMI output. Maybe you just need switching. Maybe you want scene building. Like the fact that you can kind of customize everything and you don't have to worry about it. Right. If you have an idea, there's probably a way to make it happen, I guess is maybe a better way to put it. That's the thing that is resolved for me is just whenever you have a tool that it just can handle whatever you throw at it is like the most confidence boosting thing there can be.
And I can't tell you how many times I've had to change a setup at the last minute, especially in a live streaming context. And then I need another signal converter. Mm-hmm. But not here. So all right, I think I don't think we missed anything really. If there's anything that you could have, what would it be?
Might have to think on that one and defer
Yeah,
to
I mean it's got
for a moment.
So many.
Like peace on Earth? Or
Oh, I meant with the RØDECaster, unless it can cause that. But peace on set.
Overlay transitions? Is that what's like?
Yeah, so just the overlays, making sure that the graphics can fade on and off screen. If that's in the works, then awesome.
All right. Well, that's basically been it. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We have a live presentation happening in the store right now. So again, if you happen to be in the area, you can come on, see the RØDECaster video in action. We have a full demo studio downstairs. But again, thank you for joining us. My name is Doug and our 4 wonderful guests today. And we'll see you next time.